That morning, I stepped into the courtroom through a heavy, suffocating air. My daughter, Sophia Hayes, threw me a contemptuous look, then leaned in to whisper into her husband Trevor Cole's ear. Both of them smirked, certain that I was nothing but a defeated old woman about to be buried beneath false accusations. But then the unexpected happened. The judge looked up, saw me, and froze. His face drained of color, and his voice trembled out in horror. "Oh my God, is that really her?" The entire room fell silent. Sophia Hayes was stunned. Trevor Cole scowled, and I simply sat still, serene, as if I had been waiting for this moment for a very long time. They had no idea. From that second on, the entire game had flipped. Before we continue the story, please support us by subscribing to the channel and commenting your thoughts on the meaning of this story. My name is Eleanor Hayes. I am 71 years old. People think a grandmother is ordinary, but ordinary does not mean weak. Every morning, exactly at 5:35, the time my husband passed away, I open the window and whisper, "Good morning, dear," before turning on the kettle to brew tea. It is a small habit, like a promise I still keep with the past. The chipped coffee cup I have used for half my life now has one more crack. I always turn the crack toward my lips to remind myself that old pain must be swallowed first. The kitchen is run down, the yellow light always dim. The clock on the wall has run 5 minutes fast since the day he died. I deliberately do not fix it. Every morning, I touch the clock face lightly and whisper, "We will always be a little early, so we will never miss each other again." By the window, the American rose pots still bloom vividly. One pot has withered leaves, but I keep tending it like my marriage in its final days. I tell myself, flowers can fade, but the roots still cling to the soil. So do I, still holding on to my share of pride. My hands are full of calluses after many years of work. There is a scar on my wrist from when I fainted after the funeral. But I still remember, when I was young, there was a time I stood alone in the doorway to block debt collectors, and a single look from me made them back off. That strength never disappeared. It has only been waiting for a chance to return. At dawn, the small apartment has only a few familiar sounds. The kettle boiling, the nursing home flyer slipping under the door. I pick it up, fold it, and set it beneath the rose pot like an omen I do not want to look at for long. I still talk to my husband as if he were sitting there. Just short sentences. The sky is clearing. The left rose pot is weak. I'm still here. Some days, I set an extra cup of coffee on the chair opposite his seat. It still steams. The only difference is that no one answers back. In my memory, Sophia Hayes, my daughter, appears like a cold streak. I do not remember the last time she visited, but the living room still carries her scent. Not the sweet vanilla of her childhood, but the scent of an expensive perfume and a taste of distance. Every morning when I wipe the window glass, I see my reflection. But it is not just one me. There is an old woman with a bowed head, and another who stands straight, her eyes still bright. I know that, sooner or later, I will have to choose. Who am I? My life seemed ordinary, but behind it lay a lifetime of sacrifice. 4 a.m. I quietly cleaned the company hallway. The fluorescent lights were sickly green, my shadow stretched long like a ghost. I used to think, if I collapsed right this second, it would probably be morning before anyone knew. The smell of bleach clung to the skin of my hands. Even scrubbing with lemon would not remove it. Calloused palms, fingers nicked by sewing needles. I always hid them in my coat pockets, so Sophia Hayes would not see. I never bought new shoes for myself. I just patched the old pair again and again. But I still saved money to buy a new dress for my daughter to wear to parties. There were rainy, stormy weekends when I carried trays of pastries to the market to sell. My hands trembled as I greeted customers. On days when sales were poor, my dinner was those very pastries, cold and tough. On the day Sophia Hayes took her university entrance exam, I stood outside the gate for half a day. In my hand was only a water bottle, and in my heart, only prayers. When she walked out, smiling though exhausted, I felt that every sleepless night had been worth it. When she was little, Sophia Hayes would hug me and say, "Mom is a superhero." I believed that love would keep us close forever. After my husband died, a few kind men wanted to be with me, but I refused them all. I was afraid Sophia Hayes would think I was trying to find someone to replace her father. So I chose to live alone, thinking that sacrifice would make my child happy. But no, it only widened the distance between us. The day Sophia Hayes brought Trevor Cole home, I already felt something was wrong. From the first meeting, he did not shake my hand. He only glanced around the house, as if calculating its value. Now, he props his feet on my husband's wooden table. He criticizes the food I cook. He calls me old woman. I laugh it off and swallow the humiliation, so Sophia Hayes will not be embarrassed. I even believed that if I were good enough, he would change. But in return, there was only contempt. Sophia Hayes changed too. She called less. Her messages dwindled to a few words. Mom, are you well? Visits home were always canceled at the last minute. I watched my friends being taken on trips by their children, while I had only the wall calendar marking the days of broken promises. Trevor Cole sowed bitter words. Old people who drink coffee get confused easily. Sophia Hayes remained silent, not defending her mother. That silence hurt more than the insult. I asked myself, for more than 45 years, did I raise Sophia Hayes, or did I only raise a distance? I remember Sophia Hayes's eyes on her wedding day, still bright, but far away. In her eyes, I was no longer a cornerstone. I was only a shadow, receding farther and farther. The next evening, I prepared everything as if waiting for a miracle. All morning, I scrubbed the kitchen until it gleamed, baked bread, and set a whole golden roast turkey on the table, the dish Sophia Hayes loved most when she was little. I even spread the old embroidered cloth and bought a small bouquet of flowers, though money was tight. I only hoped my girl would walk in and smile, like the old days. But when the door opened, all hope shattered. Sophia Hayes walked in without looking at me. Her eyes only scanned the living room. She wore a blue dress, but her words were as cold as ice. I don't even understand why you bought all these pointless things. Beside her, Trevor Cole flopped onto the sofa, grabbed the TV remote, and sneered. It's fine enough, but it looks too old. My hands trembled as I invited them. Have some turkey, it's still hot. But Sophia Hayes snapped, cutting me off. I'm not hungry, Mom. Don't make things complicated. The smell of roast turkey and cake filled the room, but no one touched it. The warmth I hoped for turned to coldness. Then Trevor Cole reached out, grabbed a piece of bread, chewed it casually, and curled his lip. Bland. Not my taste. Sophia Hayes sat on the edge of the seat, clutching her purse as if she were only waiting to stand up. She looked straight at me and dropped words that were even more bitter. Mom, this house is too big for you. You can't manage it anymore. We need more space for the kids. We've found the perfect nursing home for you. Those words stunned me. This was not just a house. This was where Sophia Hayes took her first steps, where we celebrated every birthday, where my husband closed his eyes for the last time. Every brick, every object holds my blood and tears. My voice choked as I gripped the TV stand. Sophia, this is our home. All our memories are here. She answered, cold and thoughtless. Memories are in the heart, Mom, not on these walls. Trevor Cole leaned forward, smiling faintly. We've already decided. You don't need to say anything else. Outside the window, the wind howled and the family photo rattled as if it would fall. On the table, the turkey went cold. The flowers began to wilt. I sat frozen, my heart caught in a knot, unable to force out a single word. Trevor Cole paced around my house like a new owner. He whistled while glancing into every corner as if appraising merchandise. Stopping in front of the keepsake cabinet, he tossed out a cold sentence. This could fetch a lot at auction. Sophia Hayes stood still and let him speak for her. She was silent, like a puppet on strings. Trevor Cole feigned concern. At a nursing home, you'll have friends your age. You'll be less lonely. Staying here alone just makes things harder. I tried to keep a little dignity. I am not an object for you to arrange. He sneered. Everyone grows old. You just haven't accepted it yet. Then he deliberately patted Sophia Hayes on the shoulder right in front of me, as if to prove that my daughter belonged entirely to him now. The afternoon sun shone straight into the kitchen, exposing the scene of my humiliation in my own home. I trembled and said, "I need more time to think." Sophia Hayes answered curtly, "There is nothing to think about, Mom. The assessors will come next week." Trevor Cole folded his arms, his tone arrogant. "If you agree to sign, we might still visit often." Then they turned their backs and left without a goodbye, leaving only Trevor Cole's mocking chuckle echoing in my head. I sat quietly, watching my trembling shadow on the wall. That night, for the first time in my life, I whispered a prayer. "Lord, please let me go early." Because at that moment, I understood. I had lost my daughter, even though she was still alive. The next morning, I sat alone in the kitchen, my eyes fixed on the photos hanging on the wall. Sophia Hayes as a child, her first day of school, then the day she wore a graduation gown. In every photo, I was there too, holding her, smiling with pride, believing I had given her everything. And now, when I look back at those frozen moments, only one question rips my heart apart. How did the child who once called me a hero now see me as nothing but a burden? The door opening pulled me back to reality. Trevor Cole walked in, leading a man in a black suit, his cologne overpowering the honeycake scent I had just baked. The man did not bother to greet me. He walked around the house, tapping his pen against the walls, shaking his head in disdain. Outdated kitchen tiles. Living room too cramped. The value of this house has dropped significantly. Sophia Hayes stood beside him, nodding in agreement, not even glancing at my trembling hands. I tried to speak. "Your father laid each of these tiles with his own hands." But my words were ignored. Trevor Cole shrugged and sneered. "Old doesn't mean valuable. It just makes everything cheap." Sunlight from the window shone directly on my face, illuminating every wrinkle etched with sorrow. The assessor walked and sketched, marking in red the places that needed to be demolished. Each tap of his pen sounded like a hammer striking my heart. When he left, Sophia Hayes took a glossy brochure from her bag and set it right in front of me. On it were the forced smiles of several elderly people. "Look, Mom," she said coolly. "They have gardens, Thursday night recreation activities, and nurses on duty 24/7. You'll be safer." I clenched the paper until it wrinkled. "A private room? And where do I put my memories?" Trevor Cole cut in, his voice dripping with scorn. "Everyone has memories, but money is what's necessary now." I choked. I have never forgotten to turn off the stove. I am not senile. But Sophia Hayes' eyes then, cold, distant, as if I was no longer myself. Before heading out the door, Trevor Cole cast a greedy look around the house. He whistled. The chill of that triumphant whistle could tear open a soul. The brochure slipped from my hand and lay crumpled on the floor. I collapsed onto the floor and understood a bitter truth. They did not only want this house, they wanted to steal the last shred of dignity I had left. That night, I opened the old album again. Tears fell onto Sophia Hayes' photo. I whispered between broken breaths. "All my life I wove wings for you, and now you use them to fly away, far from me." That afternoon, Trevor Cole came again and walked into the house as if it already belonged to him. Following him was another man, also in a suit and wearing glasses, introducing himself as a lawyer, representing family interests. Sophia Hayes trailed behind, her head bowed, unable to look me in the eye. Trevor Cole threw a leather briefcase onto the table. The lock clicked, and he pulled out a thick stack of papers. "These are the transfer documents. You just need to sign." I was stunned. "Transfer? I thought you planned to sell the house," Sophia Hayes murmured, her voice shaking. "Trevor said keeping it would be better. The house will still be in the family." My throat tightened. Which family? A family that throws out its own mother? Trevor Cole slammed his hand on the table, grinding out each word. "You're old. You're no longer capable of making decisions. Sophia is the legal heir. She's taking care of you." Anger exploded. I shouted, "This is my house. I will not go anywhere." The lawyer interjected coldly. "If you refuse to sign, we can file a petition with the court to declare you incapacitated. Then your daughter will have full authority to decide." A chill ran down my spine. Sophia Hayes whispered, "Mom, I just want to take care of you." I cried out, tears about to spill. "Take care of me? Stealing my house is what you call taking care of me?" Trevor Cole smirked, trying to look benevolent, but his eyes were full of mockery. "We only want what's best. You should be grateful." And then I remembered my husband's words before he closed his eyes. Never let anyone steal this home. The fire of anger ignited. I stood up, my hands shaking but my voice steady. "I will not sign anything. I am more clear-minded than all of you." Trevor Cole snorted. "Shouting is useless. Only black and white on paper has value." The lawyer tapped his pen on the table, each sound like a nail into a coffin. "You have 5 days to think it over. If not, we will do it our way." Trevor Cole snapped the briefcase shut, then pulled Sophia Hayes by the hand out the door, leaving me collapsed in a chair, my heart pounding wildly. The red evening light pierced the window. Dust floated like ashes after a life burned down. I clenched my wedding ring and whispered hoarsely, "My daughter has died. Before me stands only a stranger's silhouette, after a lifetime of sacrifice." Outside, darkness was falling. But in my eyes, a flame had just flared to life. Early the next morning, Sophia Hayes came back. For a moment, I hoped she had come to apologize, but when she set cardboard boxes down on the floor, her voice was low and cold. "Mom, I'm here to help you pack. Let's start with clothes." I looked straight into my child's eyes, searching for a little warmth from long ago. But only ice remained. "Sophia, I am your mother. Please reconsider." She did not look at me. Her voice was even mechanical. "That is why I am doing this. I want what's best for you." For many hours, she silently put my things into boxes, as if clearing out trash. When she picked up the black dress I wore on my husband's funeral day, she dropped a merciless line. "It's old. Throw it away." I trembled and begged, "Please, leave it for me." But she still stuffed it into the donation bag without hesitation. Then she opened the jewelry box, where I kept my wedding ring, the commemorative earrings, and the necklace my mother left me. I rushed forward, my voice breaking. "Those are my keepsakes. Give them back to me." Sophia Hayes coldly pushed everything into a bag, her voice so even it was chilling. "You could lose these at the nursing home. I'll keep them for you." In that moment, I knew the child who once hugged me and called me hero had died. Before me stood only a stranger wearing her face. That night, Sophia Hayes left with my most precious keepsakes. The house was half empty, the walls cold, memories shattered. I sank to the floor amid the scattered boxes and whispered, "Since when did I become invisible? Since when did I hold no value in their eyes?" Outside, rain hammered the roof, sounding like mocking laughter. I clutched my husband's old pillow, my tears soaking it through. But deep in my chest, a flame of defiance began to rise. They thought they could erase me. They were wrong. Each morning, Trevor Cole's pounding on the door boomed like a judge's gavel. He barged in without knocking, barking orders. "Get up, old woman. We have a lot to do today." Sophia Hayes followed, her eyes glued to her phone, not bothering to look at me even once. I sat in the kitchen, cradling the chipped cup, feeling like a stranger in my own home. Trevor Cole brought a whole group of strangers, one to take photos, one to measure, one to jot things down. A man pointed to Sophia's old room and delivered a cold line, "Tear this down, make it a rec room that would fit." My heart stabbed with pain. That was the room where Sophia slept as a child, where I told her fairy tales. Trevor Cole's voice was hard. "Hurry up. The moving truck will arrive on Tuesday." But that day was only Saturday. There were only 3 days left for me to say goodbye to decades of memories. I asked softly, almost pleading, "What if I can't finish in time?" Sophia Hayes did not look up, only answered, "Don't worry. They will handle everything. You just need to take the essentials." I choked. "What are the essentials? An entire life? How do I put that into a box?" Trevor Cole cut in with a sneer. "Keep the medications and documents. As for this pile of junk, throw it out." That afternoon, when they left, the house lay in a heavy silence like a grave. I walked from room to room, stroked the walls my husband had painted, sat in the chair where our family used to eat breakfast. In the drawer, I found tiny scraps of memory. An old movie ticket, a bracelet Sophia used to wear. I pressed it to my cheek and whispered through tears. Once you called me a superhero, now you turn me into someone powerless. Then, in my husband's old desk, I saw a black leather briefcase, a small lock, his initials engraved. My heart pounded. I had never seen it before. I tore through every place searching for a key toolbox, cabinet drawers empty. Despair surged, and then, suddenly, a small key fell out from an old book. With shaking hands, I slid the key into the lock. Click! The sound rang sharp in the still room. Inside was a thick set of documents: land titles, bank statements, share certificates. On top was a sealed envelope, marked Will, dated 5 months before Robert Hayes died. I clutched the envelope to my chest, tears spilling. Robert, what have you left me? I opened it. The first lines took my breath away. I, Robert Hayes, leave my entire estate to my wife, Eleanor Hayes. I fell into the chair, crying and laughing at once. While the world tried to erase me, Robert had quietly armed me with the weapon to stand up. I looked up at the ceiling and whispered as if he were still listening. My love, I have not lost. Because of you, I will fight. Outside, the rain poured onto the roof. But in my heart, for the first time after so many dark days, a beam of light flared, and that was when I knew the real battle had only just begun. As I examined each file carefully, I was stunned. The husband I always thought was only a humble office employee had in fact quietly prepared something unimaginable for me all his life. Robert Hayes had bought cheap plots of land, patiently invested in stocks, and step by step built an estate I had never dreamed of. I turned page after page: land ownership papers, shares in many companies, bank statements with numbers that made my eyes blur. For years, I had lived as a poor widow, while rent from a suburban house had been steadily flowing into an account in my name. And bitterly, that very house was where Sophia Hayes and Trevor Cole were living. A laugh burst through my tears. They wanted to throw me out, but they never knew they were still living off me. The surprises did not stop. Robert Hayes also held a significant stake in Trevor Cole's company, enough to have a say in key decisions. He had also invested in a restaurant, several small businesses, and a plot of land now worth millions of dollars. Everything was arranged neatly, legally, meticulously, as if Robert were still here, holding my hand, showing me the path to walk. At the end of the file, I found a handwritten letter. I opened it with trembling fingers, and his familiar handwriting touched my heart directly. My beloved Eleanor, if you are reading this, it means I am no longer by your side. I am sorry for keeping this from you, but I wanted to give you this as a gift for your old age. You have sacrificed your whole life for me and for Sophia. I do not want you to lack a single day. My tears fell onto the page. I must confess one thing. I never trusted Trevor. There is an ambition in him that worries me, so I arranged everything this way. If Sophia truly loves you, she will have plenty. But if she betrays you, you will have full authority to protect yourself. Use this power wisely, not to destroy, but to keep what rightfully belongs to you, and to teach them a lesson. I will love you forever. I pressed the letter to my chest, sobbing. Robert had foreseen it all. He left me not only money, but faith and a shield to stand up. On Tuesday morning, a light drizzle misted the window frame. I wore a black blouse, tied up my hair neatly, and sat in the living room sipping tea slowly. Today was not the day I would lose everything. Today was the day I struck back. The door burst open. Trevor Cole led Sophia Hayes and the moving crew into the house, an arrogant smile plastered on his face. Done yet, old woman? The moving truck is here? But instead of neatly packed boxes, they saw me sitting calmly, like a mistress receiving guests. Sophia Hayes frowned, her voice impatient. Mom, they're here. Why are you still sitting? I raised my head and looked straight at them. I am not going anywhere. The air froze instantly. Trevor Cole chuckled and switched to a rude tone. You don't have a choice. I set down my teacup and answered slowly. You're right. But as it turns out, You don't have a choice either. He halted, his smile fading. Sophia whispered, confused. Mom, what are you talking about? I did not hurry. Silence made Trevor lose patience. He slammed his hand on the table and snarled, Don't play games with me. I looked him in the eyes, my voice calm. This game wasn't set by me. You are the ones who have trapped me all this time. The movers exchanged glances, awkward. I turned to them and declared, You can leave. Nothing will be moved from here. Trevor Cole glared. You think you're in charge? I answered crisply, I don't think. I know. He yanked out a stack of papers and threw them on the table. Sign. I only gave a faint smile, then slowly opened my bag and pulled out several documents Robert had left enough to make Trevor blanch. No need. The real papers are in my hands. Sophia Hayes' eyes widened, her voice shaking. What papers? What are you talking about? I set each sheet on the table, my voice sharp as ice. Want to know the truth? Sit down. From now on, the rules have changed. Outside, the rain started to fall harder. Inside the room, a new battle officially began. After a while, Trevor Cole jumped up, slammed his hand on the table, and ground out each word. You don't understand the situation. You're out of options. I stood, holding the documents Robert left me. My voice was slow but resolute. No, Trevor. You are the one who doesn't understand the situation. I stepped closer to him. Do you know that for the past 4 years, the apartment you've been living in has never actually belonged to you? Sophia Hayes was stunned, her voice trembling. Impossible. We pay rent in full every month. I nodded, looking straight into my daughter's eyes. Yes, you pay. But you pay the property management company, and that company remits the money to me because I am the actual owner of that building. Everyone fell silent. Trevor Cole broke the silence with a harsh laugh, though uncertainty flickered in his eyes. Nonsense. You live on a meager pension. Where would you get a whole building? I stayed composed, each word clear. Robert was wiser than you think. He arranged everything to protect me. I presented the deed of ownership, with signatures and notarization clear as day. Sophia's hands shook as she took it, reading once, then twice. By the third time, tears burst from her eyes. No, it can't be true. I replied at once. This is the truth just like the fact that you plotted to throw me out of my own home. And remember, this house is the smallest part of what I have. Trevor Cole snatched the papers from Sophia's hands, his face ashen. He growled, clinging to straws. Forgery. These are fake. I tilted my head and smiled with a confidence I had forgotten for years. Go verify them. I encourage you to. Then you will know who really holds the power. Sophia collapsed into a chair, burying her face in her hands, sobbing. Mom, why did you never tell me? I softened, my eyes dimming. Because I only learned a few days ago myself. Your father kept this secret to protect me and to prepare for today. Those words cut into Sophia's heart like a knife. She gasped. What have I done? Mom. Trevor ground his teeth, thrashing. This is just a trick. You're only trying to keep this house. I turned sharply, my voice cold. Wrong. The house is only the surface. What I truly hold, you cannot imagine. And from now on, the power is not yours. It is mine. I stared at him, my eyes sharp as a blade. Trevor backed up several steps, unease stark on his face. I emphasized each word. You thought you could fool me with your court declares incapacity stunt? Now you see who is truly incapacitated in this game, Trevor. Outside, lightning flashed unexpectedly, cutting through the window frame. That light fell across my face, steely as iron. Trevor shouted, furious. This fight isn't over. I answered coolly. Try me. But remember, the law stands on my side. He choked on his words, then stormed out. The room was left with just me and Sophia. She still sat with her face in her hands, sobbing. The space echoed with the truth, just revealed the truth that neither of them, who thought they would win, ever anticipated. Trevor came back in, pacing the room like a caged animal, sweat beading even though it was cold and rainy outside. He growled, throwing a vicious glare at Sophia. Everything's upside down now. If your mother really owns the building, she can throw you onto the street any time. I sat still in my chair and replied calmly, "Not just you two. All my tenants have been paying me for years." Trevor stiffened, his face locked up. Sophia held her belly, her voice wavering. But we're family, Mom." A bitter laugh slipped from me, a laugh that hurt me as I heard it. Family? Like when you prepared documents to have the court declare me incompetent? Like when you treated my memories as trash? Like when you took all the jewelry your grandparents left me? Sophia burst into tears. This time it was no longer bartering tears. She trembled and confessed. "Mom, please forgive me. It was all Trevor's idea." "Shut up!" Trevor roared, his eyes flaring. But Sophia kept looking at me, pleading. "I trusted him more than myself. I was wrong." Just then, a mover poked his head in, hesitant. "Excuse me, are we moving anything? We have another job in an hour." I turned to him decisive. "No, nothing is being moved here. You may go." The door closed again, leaving the room thick with tension. Trevor lunged forward, breathing hard, the smell of sweat and rage mingling. "Old woman, this isn't over. I will sue you, prove every paper is fake." I arched an eyebrow, my voice icy. "Go ahead. While you flail, start packing. Because at the start of next month, you will receive an eviction notice in full compliance with the law." "You can't do that to us!" Trevor screamed, his voice cracking. "I can, and I will. Those are the rules, Trevor. You live in my building." Sophia panicked and leapt up. "Mom, please listen. Trevor said if I don't convince you to move out, he'll leave me. He said it's dangerous for you to live alone." I looked at Sophia, my voice aching. "So that was enough for you to betray me? Enough for you to pack my memories like trash and take all your grandparents' keepsakes?" Sophia shook as she pulled some jewelry from her bag, sobbing. "I'll return them right now, please, Mom." I shook my head, my eyes wet but my tone still firm. "Too late, Sophia." At that moment, Trevor changed tactics. He no longer screamed but lowered his voice, calculating. "Listen, Eleanor. Sophia is pregnant and there's also the little one at home. You really want to throw your own grandchild out on the street?" The room went still. The words punched me in the gut. I was about to have another grandchild, and I learned it through a bargaining chip. I turned to Sophia, my voice trembling. "Is it true?" Sophia sobbed and nodded. "I wanted to tell you a different way. I wanted it to be a surprise." A flicker of softness passed through me. But I remembered Robert's letter. Use strength to protect and teach, not to harm. I drew a deep breath, my voice steady. "Congratulations on the baby, Sophia. But that does not erase what you have done to me." Sophia collapsed to her knees, choking. "Mom, please, think of your grandchild. They need you." I looked at my daughter, my voice full of hurt. "Their grandmother is still here, Sophia. You two are the ones who wanted to get rid of her." Trevor slipped in again, oily smooth. "If you're so rich, why not help us instead of punishing us? We can reunite." I cut him off, sharp. "Reunite? Like when you prepared to have me tested for competency? Like when you pushed my daughter to turn her back on me?" Trevor faltered, his face flushing red. He exploded. "I will never humble myself before you." I answered evenly. "Then get ready to move." Sophia turned to her husband, sobbing. "Trevor, for the sake of our child, please." "No, I will not kneel to this scheming old woman," Trevor howled, his voice shattering. The words sliced the room open. Sophia went still, for the first time looking at her husband with different eyes. I repeated, gently, "A scheming old woman, so that is what you really think of me." Trevor screamed. "Yes, a bitter old hag who can't stand seeing her daughter happy." I calmly laid another set of documents on the table. "And these bank statements, these deeds, these share certificates? Did I fabricate all of those too?" Sophia's hands shook as she read each one, tears spilling. "Oh my God, they're all real." I met my daughter's eyes and pressed each word. "Very real. And now you understand why your husband is desperate to smear me." Sophia turned to Trevor and shouted, "Enough, Trevor. I trusted you and betrayed my mother. It's over." Trevor rasped back, "If you choose your mother, Sophia, this relationship ends." Sophia trembled, then stood straight, her eyes shining through tears. "Then it ends." Trevor choked. "You're carrying my child. You can't raise two kids alone." Sophia answered immediately, glancing at me. I am not alone. I have my mother. I kept my voice calm, resisting the urge to embrace my daughter. I appreciate that you've opened your eyes, Sophia. But that does not erase what you've done. Sophia nodded, her voice resolute. I know, but I will do everything to make it right. Trevor screamed, desperate. I'll sue for custody. I'll prove both of you are insane. I answered coolly. With what money, Trevor? Tomorrow morning I'll speak with your company. You forgot I hold enough shares to influence personnel? Trevor's face went chalk white. He stammered. You wouldn't dare. Oh, I dare, after all you've done to me? He spun around, howling. This isn't over. I will destroy both of you. I enunciated. Try it. But try it somewhere else. You have 1 hour to get out of this building. 1 hour? You said a lawful month. That was when Sophia stood with you. Now she has decided for herself. You have no reason to remain on my property. The door slammed. The whole house shook. Trevor vanished in a rage. The room held only me and Sophia. She kept crying, while I stood firm, like a stone pillar after a storm. After a long while, in that space, I heard her trembling voice. Mom, can you forgive me? I turned to look. Before me was not a woman in her 30s with a pale face, but the child I once carried, now lost, alone, and carrying a tiny life within her. Her eyes were full of fear, as if begging for a way out. I replied slowly, my voice tight. I don't know, Sophia. You have hurt me too much. She burst into tears, her whole body shaking, and fell to her knees. I know, and I swear I will spend my whole life making it up to you. Please trust me. I looked at her, only giving a weary, faint smile. Promises are easy, my girl. Keeping them is hard. Sophia sobbed, then rummaged in her bag and took out a small pouch. She placed it in my hand, speaking in a broken voice. These are the jewels from Grandma and Grandpa. I'm giving them back to you. I recognized the familiar pouch. Those keepsakes had once been a source of pride, the marks of our family. A heavy feeling rose in my chest. I looked at her belly, where a life was growing. A part of me softened, but the wound had not healed. At last, I spoke, my tone low but clear. All right, you can stay tonight, but only one night. Starting tomorrow, we will talk about how you will earn back my trust. Sophia cried out and clutched my legs, sobbing. Thank you, Mom. I promise I will make it right. I laid my hand on her shoulder, but did not pull her into my arms. Thank you is easy to say, Sophia. Action is hard. She nodded over and over, tears streaming down, yet a fragile glimmer of hope had appeared in her eyes. That night, Sophia slept in her old room, the room kept just the same since she left, and I sat alone in the kitchen. In front of me was a cup of tea gone cold, no steam rising, like the trust that had once gone out inside me. I looked at the stack of documents spread across the table, the papers confirming the power Robert had quietly left me. Outside, the rain still pattered on the tiles, like the troubled rhythm of my own heart. I whispered to myself, is she truly repentant, or only afraid of losing shelter? My eyes halted on the old photograph on the wall, Sophia as a child, laughing innocently in my arms. A single tear fell. I closed my eyes, holding both the pain and that thin thread of hope. We will know, Sophia. We will see. Several days passed in a strange atmosphere, heavy like fog draped over the house. Sophia was still here in her old room without her little one, the room I had kept exactly as it was after she left with Trevor. On the shelf were still the worn-covered books, a few old toys, and the curtains I had washed again and again for her. Everything seemed frozen in time. Only my daughter had changed. By day, we behaved like polite strangers. Just a few short sentences, asking about breakfast, remarking on the weather, or mentioning the waves of nausea that made her tired. But in those quiet stretches, I observed. I watched every gesture, every action, every small effort Sophia made to prove she truly wanted to regain my trust. And then, I noticed change. For the first time in years, Sophia began to take care of herself. She washed the dishes right after meals. She kept her room tidy and neat. She cleaned the windows, swept the yard, even folded the tablecloth she used to mock as old-fashioned. I said nothing, only noted it quietly, my heart aching and flickering with the faintest hope. On the 6th day, as I was watering the rose pots by the window, Sophia brought a cup of hot tea. She set it down gently and spoke in a trembling but tender voice. "Mom, can we talk for a bit?" I nodded, but did not turn around right away. I was learning to let silence be stronger than 1,000 words. Sophia pulled out a chair, and Saturday. It was the very chair where Trevor always sat before, smug as if he were master of this house. Now it sat empty and cold, like a scar. She wrapped her arms around her belly and spoke slowly. "These days I've been thinking a lot, about everything I did and said." I kept watering, letting her open herself. I realize it wasn't only Trevor who changed me. I allowed him to change me. I chose to believe him instead of listening to my own heart. I turned to look. Before me stood my daughter in her 30s, a gaunt face and eyes shadowed with many sleepless nights. I asked bluntly, my voice calm but cutting to the truth. "Why did you allow that, Sophia?" She sighed, her voice cracking. "Because blaming you was easier than facing the truth that I married the wrong man." The answer made me pause. I had prepared myself to hear excuses and rationalizations, but I had not expected such a raw confession. She continued, tears pouring down. "When Trevor started complaining that you visited too often, deep down I knew he was wrong. But it felt easier to think you were clingy than to admit he was selfish. When he said you should go to a nursing home, I knew it was cruel. But I still chose to believe it, because then I wouldn't have to face the truth that I married someone who did not respect my own mother." I stayed silent, letting her rip apart the shell of lies she had built herself. I asked, my voice low, "So what is the real problem, Sophia?" She laid her hand on her belly, her tone clear yet choked. "The real problem is that I married a man who doesn't respect family, doesn't respect me, and will never change." A breeze blew through the window, carrying the smell of damp earth after rain, bearing witness to her confession. I nodded slightly, speaking slowly. "At last, you are beginning to see." Inside me, a tiny flame of hope flickered alive again. It was not enough to call forgiveness, not enough to erase the hurt, but it was the first sign that from these ruins, Sophia might begin to learn how to grow up. I looked at her once more and whispered in my heart, "If this is the truth, then perhaps it is time for the next part of the battle to begin." 3 weeks after Trevor left, the house felt fragilely peaceful, but his shadow still lurked in my mind, like a storm not yet spent. And then, just as I expected, he returned. That afternoon, while Sophia was in her room, her phone buzzed. Her face went pale at once. She whispered, "Mom, it's Trevor. He wants to talk because he's still my husband." I set the watering can down. My heart thudded, but my voice was cool, almost cold. "What did you tell him?" Sophia swallowed, mumbling. I said, "I don't want to meet." But he shouted he would call the police, said you were holding me captive and neglecting the child at home. I straightened and adjusted my blouse as if preparing for battle. "Tell him to stay put. I'm coming." Sophia panicked, clutching my hand. "But Mom, he's agitated. I'm afraid he'll do something." I squeezed her hand, my eyes sharp as a blade. "That is exactly why I have to go." The neighborhood was crowded. When I arrived, the scene spread out like a battlefield. Trevor stood in the middle of the street, face flushed, reeking of alcohol, smashing things in a rage. "That crazy old woman is keeping my wife prisoner. This is kidnapping," Trevor roared, his voice hoarse like a beast. I stepped out of the shadows, my stride steady, my gaze unblinking. "Good afternoon, Trevor." He whipped around, eyes bloodshot with drink, and growled, "Give me back my wife right now." I answered slowly, crisp and clear. "Sophia is exactly where she wants to be. You are the intruder. If you don't leave my property immediately, I will call the police." Trevor gave a scornful laugh. "Your property? You're just some old woman on a shabby pension. This isn't yours." I did not yield. I pulled out my phone, dialed, and put it on speaker right there in the crowded neighborhood. "Olivia Park, this is Eleanor. There is a man refusing to leave my property. Can you confirm for me?" The lawyer's voice rang out, clear and resolute. Of course, Mrs. Eleanor Hayes is the sole lawful owner of the house at number. All documents have been notarized and filed with the court. The whole street went silent for a heartbeat. Neighbors exhaled and looked at me with a mix of astonishment and respect. Trevor stood speechless, his face turning ashen. I looked straight at him, my voice hard as steel. "Do you want me to repeat that, Trevor?" He ground his teeth and punched the wall. The dull thud echoed. He howled, cornered. "This isn't over. Are you going to throw your grandchild out too?" I stepped forward, my tone decisive, each word precise. "You are right. It is not over. But this time, you will not decide the ending. Tomorrow, I will speak to your boss at the company. The day after, I will visit the bank where you took your car loan. And this time, you will know what a real ending looks like, and I will bring my grandchild home." Sophia stood a little distance away, a hand on her belly, eyes wide with fear. It was the first time my daughter had seen her husband completely out of control. A neighbor whispered behind me, "Be careful, he's drunk." I nodded slightly, never taking my eyes off my opponent. "Don't worry, I am ready." Trevor jabbed a finger at my face, each word scraped out. "You will regret crossing me." I only curled my lip, a cold smile. "Wrong, Trevor. The one who will regret this is you." The air in the neighborhood congealed, so still we could hear the ticking of a clock. An old woman passing by stopped and shook her head. Shameful. Trevor stormed off, his curses trailing behind him. I did not bother to look back. Sophia clutched her belly and broke into sobs. "Mom, I'm afraid I'll lose my child." I stepped to her side, laid a hand on her shoulder, my voice firm. "No one will take my grandchild. No one." In my heart, I knew Trevor would return. But this time, I had the truth, the law, and a courage he could never touch. About a month and a half after the showdown in the neighborhood, the storm I knew would come finally hit. Court day. Trevor kept his threat. He sued us with vicious accusations, alienation of affection, financial manipulation, and even demanded full custody of the 2 children. That morning, I put on my most dignified black outfit. Sophia wore a purple dress, holding one child's hand while the other hand cradled her 6-month belly, her face haggard but her eyes resolute. As we stepped into the living room, she asked in a trembling voice, "Mom, what if the judge believes him? What if they take my children?" I embraced my daughter for the first time in many months and whispered, "No, Sophia. We stand on the side of truth." The courtroom was packed. On the opposite bench, Trevor sat beside a slick lawyer he had surely emptied his pockets to hire. His eyes carried the same ingrained malice, but this time I was no longer afraid. I had something he would never have, the composure of someone on the side of justice. The hearing opened. Trevor's lawyer thundered on, painting me as a toxic, wealthy old woman, vengeful and bent on destroying her daughter's marriage. He hammered the words, "toxic mother." I sat silently, letting him drone on. I knew that when it was our turn, the truth would speak for itself. Then Olivia Park rose. Her voice was clear and fierce. Each piece of evidence landed like a blade. Messages from Trevor to Sophia. "You are useless. I should never have married you." Audio recording. "If you don't throw your mother out, I'll leave you." Neighbor's testimony. I heard him cursing, smashing things, and threatening his wife many times. The courtroom hummed in agitation. The looks darting toward Trevor were like arrows. Trevor jumped up and shouted, "Fake. It's all fabricated." Bang! The judge struck the gavel. "Order!" The air went still. Then the judge looked up and studied me for a long moment. "Mrs. Eleanor Hayes?" "Yes, Your Honor." He removed his glasses, his gaze seeming to see straight through me. "More than 28 years ago, did you work at the family court?" I faltered, my heart pounding. "Yes, I worked as a janitor there." His face suddenly warmed with a faint smile. "Do you not recognize me? I am Andrew Whitaker. Back then, I was a clumsy intern. You were the one who helped me, who brought me coffee on late nights. When everyone treated me as invisible, you were the only one who was kind to me." The whole courtroom fell silent as a sheet. Sophia gaped at me. Trevor went pale, and his lawyer fumbled, losing his cool. My eyes blurred. Beneath the gray hair and dignity, I recognized the shy young man from long ago, the one I had once encouraged. "One day, you will be a fine judge," I choked out. "Of course I remember." Judge Andrew Whitaker nodded gently, then spoke with ringing clarity. "I never forgot. You believed in me when even I did not believe in myself." Trevor, panicking, hissed to his lawyer, "We're finished." The lawyer scrambled to his feet in protest. "Your Honor, this creates a conflict of interest." But Judge Whitaker brought the gavel down firmly. "No, this is justice, and justice will be done." He looked straight at Trevor, his tone sharp as ice. "The evidence shows you are the sole manipulator in this story." "I was only protecting my family," Trevor cried, frantic. Bang! The gavel struck. "Silence! This is a court, not a marketplace." Sophia wept, but this time with relief. Olivia Park leaned over and whispered, "We've won." I drew a long breath. A swell of emotion rose in me. It was simple kindness from years ago that had become a shield saving us today. Trevor sagged over the table, trembling with rage and helplessness. I squeezed my daughter's hand and whispered, "You see, Sophia, life always comes full circle." The final strike of the gavel rang through the courtroom like a bell closing a long storm. Judge Andrew Whitaker, his voice low and steady, read the verdict word by word, leaving no room for doubt. Trevor Cole loses all rights related to the two children. A restraining order takes effect immediately. In addition, he must pay all court costs and damages for the emotional harm caused. The room held its breath for a second, then erupted. "Justice, at last. Justice has been served." The sound washed away the tension pressing on my chest. Meanwhile, officers escorted Trevor out. His face burned red, eyes full of hatred, yet emptied of power. He tried to shout, his voice ragged, "I'll get revenge. You'll all pay." A police officer gripped his shoulder, coldly. "That's enough, Mr. Cole. The verdict has been delivered." I did not look after him. I whispered, as if to myself, "The price you pay is this day." Sophia choked out, holding me tighter. "Mom, I owe you my whole life." I smoothed her hair, my voice firm yet gentle. "No, you only need to live right, live worthy. That is all I need." Olivia Park, our lawyer, came over, her face bright, her voice resonant and sincere. "Congratulations, Mrs. Hayes. This is a victory you deserve." I nodded, smiling slightly, and answered clearly, "Not a victory for me alone, but for Sophia, and for the two children." Outside, dark clouds parted, and brilliant sunlight streamed through the courtroom windows. That light poured over us, as if to confirm a new chapter had begun. I held Sophia's hand tight. It still shook, but it was warm again. For the first time in many months, true peace spread through my heart. Justice had stood with us, and I understood something deep. Kindness, even forgotten for years, will return at the exact moment we need it most. A few months after the trial, the house that had once drowned in tears now rang with a new sound, a newborn's first cry. Ava Grace Cole was born on a morning of soft rain, her cry tearing through the last shadows, lingering over my family. I stood by the hospital bed, holding Sophia's hand. Sweat beaded her brow, but her eyes shone, so different from the gloomy woman who had lived under Trevor's shadow. When the nurse placed the tiny red infant in my daughter's arms, Sophia's face lit up as if the whole world had been handed back to her. Tears spilled as I gazed at my granddaughter. I whispered, "Ava Grace, your name means tranquility, and tranquility is what this family has longed for all these years." From the day the two children were in the house, it no longer felt cold. It brimmed with crying, with gurgling laughter, and the warm scent of milk. The rooms once packed with painful memories were now filled with the sounds of new life. Sophia, my daughter, who had lost her way, had found herself again. She held her child with a tenderness I had not seen in many years. I looked at her and realized, at last, she had become the mother I always believed she could be. One morning, we sat in the backyard. I rocked the hammock, holding Ava Grace in my arms, listening to her soft coos. The wind drifted through the leaves, carrying the fragrance of roses, the flower Robert had loved. Sophia sat beside me, eyes tired from sleepless nights, but with a smile full of light. She asked shyly, her voice trembling, "Mom, have you truly forgiven me?" I was quiet for a moment, looking at my daughter's face. She had changed. She was no longer dependent, no longer manipulated, yet there was still a fragility in her eyes. I answered, my voice warm but firm. "I forgive you, Sophia, but more important, you must learn to forgive yourself," Sophia cried. This time, it was not the tears of fear or bargaining, but clear, freeing tears. She squeezed my hand and whispered like a vow, "Mom, I promise I will never let Ava Grace and her brother grow up in fear like I did." I embraced her, nodding, my answer firm. "That is the only promise I need to hear." That night, when the house was quiet, I sat in the kitchen, brewing coffee in the familiar chipped cup. I remembered Robert's letter. Use strength to protect and teach, not to destroy. His words echoed in my mind, confirming I had chosen the right path. Sophia stood in the doorway, watching me, and offered a smile, tired but peaceful. "Mom, you are still my only anchor." I turned back, my voice unwavering. "And you are the reason I keep being strong." Ava Grace suddenly burst into bright laughter in her cradle. That tender sound rang out like a bell heralding a new beginning. My tears fell, but this time they were tears of joy. Moonlight slipped through the window, illuminating 3 generations: the past, the present, and the future. Sophia took my hand and whispered, "Mom, we will start over." I squeezed her hand and smiled. "And this time, no one will be able to tear us apart." In my chest, a warm flame flared, burning away every shadow Trevor had left. True happiness had returned, and this time I knew it would remain. About 6 years after that fateful trial, my life had turned a way I had never dared to dream. Ava Grace Cole, the child born in the storm, was now 5 years old. Her eyes shone bright, quick like her mother's, but her stubborn streak was exactly like mine when I was young, and she often teased her older brother, Liam Cole, who was 7. One cool afternoon, she ran across the garden, her little feet skimming the green lawn. In her hand, she held a tiny yellow blossom, raising it high like a treasure. "Grandma, look." I picked her up, kissed her sun-warmed forehead, and smiled. "It's beautiful, sweetheart. We'll put it in the vase with the others, all right? Then we'll go pick up your brother from school." Her peals of laughter spread through the garden that had once been soaked with tears. I paused, realizing this place was no longer the ground of sorrow, but our family's little heaven. In the kitchen, Sophia watched us, her lips curved into a gentle smile. In 6 years, my daughter had changed so much it startled me. She went back to school, completed a degree in accounting, and now worked for a small but reputable firm. It wasn't the most glamorous job, but I had never seen her so proud and at peace. More important than anything, Sophia had reclaimed the pure smile I had once feared was lost forever. No longer veiled by Trevor's shadow, it was the smile of the child I had carried in my arms long ago. That afternoon, Sophia stepped onto the porch with an elegant envelope. She said softly, "Mom, there's a letter for you." I opened it. At once, I recognized the familiar seal, the Home and Dignity Fund, the foundation I established with a portion of what Robert left to help older women who had suffered abuse or been cast out by their own families. I read aloud, "We cordially invite you to the grand opening of the fund's second home." Tears welled up. I sat on the porch chair, trembling, remembering 6 years ago when my own daughter wanted to throw me out of my home. And now, I had become someone who built shelter for others, women who had fallen into darkness as I once had. Over 6 years, we had welcomed more than 40 women. They arrived with tired eyes, calloused hands, and broken hearts. But one by one, they rebuilt their lives from the fragments. Sophia came closer and gently brushed away a tear from my cheek. "Mom, they have new lives because of you." I shook my head, my voice choked yet steady. "Not because of me, child. Because of my pain." It turned into strength. The doorbell rang, cutting the moment short. Sophia went to answer, then returned with a mysterious smile. "Mom, special guests." In walked Judge Andrew Whitaker, now retired, with an elegant lady. He smiled, his gaze still as kind as that once shy intern. "Mrs. Eleanor Hayes, I'd like you to meet my wife, Grace Whitaker." Grace Whitaker shook my hand, her voice sincere. "It is a great honor to meet you. Andrew has told me so much. He said you helped shape his path." Flustered, I answered softly, "He gives me too much credit." But Judge Whitaker shook his head, his tone ringing. "Not at all. Because of you, I came to believe that justice is not only in statutes, but in true fairness and kindness." He handed me another formal envelope. "The Association of Retired Judges wishes to present you with a special award recognizing your work with the fund." I trembled with emotion. I don't need an award." Judge Whitaker looked me in the eye, firm. "You do. Not for fame, but because your story inspires. It reminds us that true justice is not only a verdict, but how we protect human dignity." I stood there, overwhelmed, my heart brimming. Sophia looked at me with pride. Ava Grace ran up, hugging my leg, and peered up innocently. "Grandma, who is this?" I knelt, stroked her hair, and smiled. "An old friend of Grandma's, sweetheart, someone who once believed in kindness." Grace Whitaker squeezed my hand and whispered, "A woman like you deserves to be honored." The late sun poured through the window, bathing us all in a warm, golden halo. In that instant, I realized the journey once filled with tears had turned into something like a miracle. From a victim cast out by her own family, I had become a builder of homes for others. A circle had closed, whole and complete. Sophia embraced me and whispered through tears, "Mom, I am more proud of you than of anyone." My tears fell, tears of happiness this time. And I answered, my voice steady, like a living will, "My daughter, remember this. Never let anyone steal your dignity." Night slowly fell, draping the backyard in twilight. Sophia and I sat on the porch, holding warm cups of tea, while Ava Grace played with her dolls and Liam studied. The peace felt so complete that it was hard to believe this place had once witnessed storms. Sophia turned to me, her voice soft but trembling. "Mom, do you know what I admire most about you?" I smiled gently. "What is it, child?" Her eyes glistened. "That you didn't let your heart turn to stone. After all that happened, after all I did to you, you still kept your tenderness." I sighed and gave a sad smile. "Do you think I was never bitter?" There were nights I sank into resentment, feeling it corrode me from within. I cried, "Sophia, more than you know." I set the cup down, my voice deepening. "But your father left me a gift in his last letter." He wrote, "True power is not in revenge, but in turning pain into something useful for others." And I chose that path. Sophia went still, then nodded, her eyes wet but shining. "I am learning it too. Because of you, I know how to turn my experience into strength. I want to help the young women at the fund so they know they're not alone, that they can step out of the darkness like I did." I looked at my daughter and saw true growth in every word. She was no longer the manipulated woman of years past, but a mother, an independent woman rebuilding her life. After a while, Sophia asked quietly, as if afraid of the answer, "Mom, do you ever wonder how Trevor is now?" I took a sip of coffee, my voice even. "Olivia Park says he moved to another city, apparently remarried. I hope he learned something, but honestly, he is no longer my concern." Sophia's eyes widened. "Not even a little curious?" I shook my head lightly. "No. Some people step into our lives only to teach us a lesson. When we have learned it, we let go. There is no need to keep them in our hearts any longer." The pure laughter of Ava Grace rang out, drowning the last grim remnants of memory. Sophia began to cry, her voice tight. "I hope I never forget. You saved me from the dark." I embraced her and whispered, "No, Sophia, you saved yourself. I only reminded you who you really are." A strong breeze lifted our hair like an unseen affirmation from the heavens. I closed my eyes and felt peace spread. This family had finally escaped the past. Ava Grace bounded over, her cheeks rosy from play, hair tousled, eyes bright as stars. She hugged my leg and beamed up at me. "Grandma, tell the brave grandma story." It was her favorite tale, a fairy tale I rewrote from my own life. In it, A grandmother discovers she has magic and uses that power to protect her family from a wicked dragon always lurking to steal everything away. I pretended to grumble. Again, you little rascal? But I still lifted her into my lap and began to tell it. When I finished, Ava Grace whispered, her voice brimming with hope. And in the end, the grandma lives happily ever after, right? I smiled and nodded. Yes, sweetheart. The brave grandma found her happy ending. Ava Grace wrapped her arms around my neck, pressed her cheek to my shoulder, and whispered with guileless certainty, "You've found yours, Grandma." My heart trembled. I looked around, Sophia setting the table for dinner, Ava Grace in my arms, the garden aglow with lights, and on the table a new letter from the Home and Dignity Fund. In that moment, I knew. She was right. I had found happiness not in money or power, but in my family's embrace and the simple peace of my remaining days. Late at night, Ava Grace slept soundly, her breath a gentle lullaby in the quiet house. I sat in my old, familiar chair, beside a steaming cup of coffee and a neat stack of letters on the table. They were the weekly letters of thanks from the women helped by the Home and Dignity Fund. I opened them one by one, reading slowly, letting each word seep into my heart. A 73-year-old wrote, "Thank you for giving me the courage to face the son who abused me for so many years." A 68-year-old shared, "Because of you, I took back the home my grandchildren tried to cheat me out of." Each letter was proof that what I had endured was not in vain. My pain had become light to guide others. Sophia came in with a cup of coffee, sat beside me, and asked softly, "What are you thinking about, Mom?" I smiled, my eyes glistening. "I'm thinking of your father. If he were here, he would be proud." Sophia whispered, sure and steady, "I believe he is still watching over us." I squeezed her hand. "And I'm thinking of you too. I'm proud of the woman you have become." Sophia's eyes reddened. I learned from the best. We sat quietly, letting the night hold us. Then Sophia whispered, "I love you, Mom." I turned and looked straight into her eyes, answering with all the sincerity in me. "I love you too. I have always loved you even in the darkest moments. And that is the truth. A mother's love is stronger than bitterness, more enduring than resentment, and more powerful than any fortune." That night, for the first time in many years, I slept a truly peaceful sleep. No nightmares, no tearing apart inside, no fear. I had found something more precious than money, the serenity of someone who used her second chance wisely. My story is not about how much wealth one has, but about how to turn pain into purpose, shame into strength, and bitterness into wisdom to pass on to others. And I learned the final lesson, the most important lesson of my life. It is never too late to stand up for yourself. It is never too late to rewrite the story of your life.